Okay, awesome. Rohan Patel, comic book movie.
Hi,
Hi, Will. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. So I just want to start with what initially attracted you to this role? Because Roscoe is arguably just as tough as Reacher, if not tougher. So what was it that initially that kind of attracted you to the part?
Well, I'm glad that you think that. I agree. I think it was just that. I think that I read the first script, the pilot episode, and Roscoe kind of just jumped off of the page as a fully formed human in that first scene. I think that she's tough, she's opinionated, she's self-assured, she is empathetic, and I think that I was just really excited to see where the character went as the series progressed. And it was kind of just one of those moments where you read a character and like, she would be really fun to play. Like, I want to say those lines.
Yeah, and so like this is your first like really big action show, unless I guess unless you count Little Women, but uh,
That was a
so
great
like
joke.
so like what kind of training did you undergo to get ready for Roscoe?
um, yeah, I had a lot of action training for Little Women too. I'm
Yeah.
so glad you realized. I had done actually, I have actually done a lot of action training in the past. I've done
Mhm.
quite a few thrillers and Scream. We did a ton of
Yeah.
gun training and fight choreography stuff. This show was super good about having us learn action sequences pretty far ahead of time. And so we had a lot of time to practice, a lot of time to get comfortable. And we just had a really great stunts department that was kind of always there with whatever you needed before you asked for it, whether it was pads or help figuring something out, how to do it safely. And and probably the most time was spent on probably weapons training, which is really important,
Yeah.
obviously, on set. And we had a great department who kind of handled all of the weapons, of which there are many.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. And so like when you have actually I remember about Scream, but the joke worked better with Little Women. So I had
I loved
to so with the big forest scene that you have with Kristen. So what was that like? How long did that take to choreograph and figure out just like the logistics of it all?
Well, funnily enough, unless I'm misremembering, the forest sequences, for the most part, are just running. So, really, what
Uh-huh.
we had going on there was kind of on the day learning, where we would do a walking pass to kind of make sure everything was safe. And then the stunt double, my stunt double, who's amazing, would do a running pass to make sure it all felt good. They'd get
Mhm.
it a couple of times with the stunt double, and then I would go in and do it a few times, and then hopefully it would kind of be done, because that stuff was just was more dangerous, just in the sense that you're running on uneven terrain at night,
Yeah.
which is always kind of dangerous. Um, but yeah, that was more than anything kind of on set figuring stuff out.
Okay. And so like you get to really unleash on a lot of people. You get to punch them in the face. You get to yell at Alan multiple times. So like, what was that like? What did you kind of channel to like unleash that anger
I'm
on
a
all these
really
guys?
angry person. Just kidding. I think that I mean, there's a lot of different contexts that you're talking about. I think
Mhm.
that um the person who I punch is
Yeah.
a terrible human.
Mhm.
And I think that it's not difficult, probably, for any of us to kind of think about someone who we'd like to maybe punch, who's a terrible person. And so I think that we had also already, if that's like comes in the middle of the season, and we'd already
Yeah.
had so much lead up emotionally to that moment, that by the time it happened, it was just like, it was very easy. And I think all of the Allen scenes where we kind of get into it are are fun and easy, because Alan and I already have a dynamic wherein I think we feel comfortable kind of, uh playing with each other in that way.
Mhm.
And so it's just an easy step into, being in character and doing that too.
Okay. So it was like so it was, I was wanted to ask about Alan. So it's like relatively easy because you get both these guys, Roscoe and Reacher, are both like very tough characters, but
Yeah.
they get to show their vulnerable sides with one another like midway through the season. So is that
Yeah.
pretty easy to do with Alan and just like develop that as like you care about each other? Like he's like, I didn't
Yeah.
hear from you on the phone and all that stuff. Was that pretty easy?
Yeah, because I think Alan and I do care about each other.
Mm.
We like definitely took care of each other while we were shooting the show, and he's a great person, and I genuinely like think that he is phenomenal as an actor and as a friend, and it just makes that kind of dynamic so much easier when you already have an off-screen friendship. And I just got really lucky because that doesn't always happen, but I think we got really lucky in that we enjoyed each other's company, we made each other laugh, and we made kind of all of our times on set comfortable.
And you also get like you get to have your big moment in the finale. Well, everyone has a big moment in the finale, but you also have like the big kill. And so, what was it like filming that finale? Because it's like massive. It's like movie scale, like
It
explosive.
is.
So what was the process of filming that whole sequence?
It was long. Long. A lot of parts. But MJ, our director from that episode, is a beast. She's phenomenal. And I mean, it's just, the interesting thing about shooting that kind of action sequence is that it's often so broken up. And that I think is actually the hardest part as an actor, is to maintain the emotional intensity through what is a very long shooting arc that in the actual product is mere seconds probably. But, the final kill is a huge emotional moment, but we shot the actual close up of me doing that kind of independent of the whole stuff that precedes it. And so as an actor, I think the toughest part of that is just tying it all together in your brain. So you really understand the kind of full emotional arc, physical arc that your character has gone through to get to that moment, because it isn't necessarily in chronological order and kind of there for you already.
Yeah, and there's also kind of a moment where I think you handcuff him first.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too much in spoilers, but it's like you do handcuff him. So like it's going through your head whether am I going to let him go or not, or I'm not going to let him go, but it's like am I going to kill him or make him account for what he's done? So what was that kind of like internal battle? What kind of discussions were you having with the director?
Yeah. Well, that was a really interesting question, because I think for me, it was really important that it wasn't actually a revenge killing, that it was a necessity. And we went back and forth about the handcuffing, not handcuffing, many times. Eventually the handcuffing stayed in. And then the kind of, the compromise was that he goes for a gun that's on the ground. And so the act of shooting this character is a necessity, and it's something that she has to do. Otherwise she could have just left him in the building, you know. But it's a thing that she has to do, and she then has to deal with the implications of what she's done after that, because I don't think that Roscoe is someone who wants to kill someone, even someone who she does hate.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. And so I don't want to keep you too long, but I just had to ask you about, because you did work with Kristen and Malcolm, who were like in Smallville, iZombie. So like, what was it like developing this very genuine bond with both those characters as well, and just like working with them as actors?
Yeah, I mean, I love Malcolm and I love Kristen. They're incredibly consummate actors. And, Malcolm and Roscoe, or not Malcolm, Finley and Roscoe have a very fun on-screen dynamic also, different than the dynamic with Reacher, but also, a kind of ball busty dynamic where they're really, testing the boundaries of what they can and can't say in that relationship. And Malcolm is just also a very prepared actor. He comes to set knowing what he wants to do, and that's just a fun thing to be able to play with. And Kristen, it was also just so nice because there were so few women on set. And so when Kristen would come in and we would get to have those scenes together, it was just really nice to have a different dynamic. And it was also really nice to play with Roscoe as a character in her relationships with women, because we don't really see that. She has one line with Neely, and other than that, Kristen's the only other female character who she talks to. So I think it was a I think that was a fun dynamic to kind of figure out, and especially plot wise, their relationship is really interesting. And yeah, Kristen and Malcolm are great.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Willa. I really appreciate your time. This was, and congratulations on Reacher. It's an awesome show. So
Thank you.
I'm sure
Thanks.
everyone's gonna love it. But yeah,
Thank you.
thank you
Have a
again.
great day.
You too.